All right, guys, I'm here. Let me. Okay, guys, sorry about that. It took me a little bit longer to get home than what I initially thought would take. Let me finish getting set up here. Come on. There we go. Oh, I only missed 7 minutes. Okay, cool. All right, guys, let me get locked in here and watch this game and take notes and do all that other good stuff that I do. Yeah, it took me a little bit longer to get home than what I initially planned on. Very sorry for being late. I'll get to y'all's comments at the next chance I get. Ryabkin wide. Dude, that was beautiful. Oh my God, I'm so glad I got home in time to see that. That whole play was great. Centering pass from Nadeau and Ryabkin's finish. Good pinch, or good keep, I should say. Ryabkin found plenty of open ice, and he took his time with it. He didn't just shoot it immediately. That extra little bit of patience paid off so he could pick where he wanted to put it when he took the shot. Ryabkin's fucking nasty, dude. I guess it's pronounced Rabkin because I've been hearing everybody pronounce it that way this weekend. I was under the impression it was Ryabkin, considering he's Russian and all, but it's Rabkin, I guess. The Y must be silent. Good little one-touch pass there. Good button hook. Good back check. That's how you don't give them a clean zone exit. Good job, boys. I guess they don't want to lose 3 in a row, or all 3 of the games of this is the last one of the tournament, so. Let's watch Himasami on this breakout. Like, this kid's got some wheels and he's got some hands. Good cycle. That last sequence looked a little power play like, so they definitely had an offensive zone dominance there. All right, comments. BTS says yellow. Good to see you, pal. Now that you've seen the jerseys in action, what's your thoughts? I'm still a fan. I dislike them more. I'm not in a hurry to get one. Dude, honestly, I might not fucking get one at all. Let's be straight up honest with you. Todd Davis says they're kind of ugly to me. Yeah, and the design was just lazy. They basically inverted the Stadium Series sweater, put a really stupid looking thing on the right shoulder, and it's just, I'm sorry, it looks dumb. I don't like it. Maybe they'll grow on me eventually, but it's just, I don't like it. Especially Washington came out with one today that looks better than this, and Rabkin took another shot. Man, this kid's got a clapper too. Dude, this guy's he's a hound for open ice. I like this. With as many playmakers that the Hurricanes have, if Rabkin's got that mentality to just get to open space and get a shot off quickly. But like he did on the goal he scored, he took that extra little split second to kind of survey the situation, and he didn't shoot the puck immediately. He waited a moment so he could really pick that corner and put it where he wanted it. So Rabkin was drafted way too low, dude. This guy's got to be in the AHL at least at the rate he's going. I don't. There's not much I think someone like Rabkin can learn in the Q, honestly, because the Q's an all offense league. Good job by Charles Alexis Legault stepping up there in the neutral zone. Apparently, he was a little bit off on Saturday, from what I was told. I've rewatched the game, or I recorded the game so I can rewatch it, and I'm going to clip highlights of select prospects and put them all together over the course of the week. I got some schoolwork I got to prioritize, and then after that, I'll be able to do something like that. But yeah, I was late getting home because I was starting to look like a caveman, so I wanted to go get my beard trimmed and got my head shaved and got my eyebrows done even, so I'm looking all nice and classy. Plus, Rabkin's 5'11" and he's 18. He could grow a little bit more. Good stick. Good keep by Biondi there. Good move. Good possession move there. Bought some time and space. Get there. Get there. There you go. Good back check, two-man picture defense, all that good stuff. Good hit. All right, way to force a bad shot. Easy save for Nikita Quap there. Todd Davis says, and I think you're referring to Rapkin when you say this. He looked good on the D side yesterday. Yeah, a bunch of people, including someone who I very much trust on the matter, and that of Matthew P, told me that he looked good on the defensive side of things. Saturday, yeah. Burgers tonight. Unfortunately, no burgers tonight. I will have burgers again soon, but today is not a burger day. In the Navy, you get burgers on Wednesday normally, and pizza and wings on Friday. Cupid, what's up, dude? Really hope he ends up in the NHL one day. I don't see why he can't. Rapkin, everything points to that right now, if you ask me. I really like how Robidaw uses that low center of gravity he has on faceoffs like that. Like, that's a good asset to him. You know, Robidaw is not going to be like a game changer or anything, but if the Canes need a 4C, I think he's good for that. If he can get to where he starts to take that step to where it's not Yost or Yaksa being the next guy up, Robidaw could be a better player than them for that type of situation. I'd have to see Robidaw like extensively play the wing though, because the difference between him and Yost and Yaksa right now is Yost and Yaksa can play the wing if they need to be called up. Nadeau just about walked it through there. Nadeau, like, his puck pursuit has been excellent this entire tournament, everything that I've seen. And it looks like he's got a playmaking touch in addition to that cannon of the shot. It's good job by Robidaw there fighting for that puck. It's a good job to drive the net there by Nadeau. A lot of these kids are really impressing me of everything I've seen so far. Get back. That's the danger of stepping up for those big shots like that. Excellent back check. Alrighty. BTS says, who's the player in this tournament who will be in the NHL next? As it stands right now, probably Bradley Nadeau. But the thing is, there's not really any. He's not really. There's no room for him. But like, there ain't going to be a whole lot more for him to learn into A. Like, maybe he can go down there and have another great season, score a bunch of goals and everything like that. But as far as refining what he needs to refine in his game so that he can be effective in what his role would be at the NHL level, I don't think there's much more for him to learn down there. I really don't. Besides, who the fuck wants to live in Chicago anyway? Good stick in the neutral zone there. All the things I was worried about with Rabkin, I've not seen yet. I was worried he was going to chase hits and get into a bunch of stupid shit after the whistle in front of the net. But good job by Rabkin there to cover up the point for his D-man that dropped down low. All right, let's see how he handles this here. No pressure on him in the D zone. Good exit there. That Doyle's actually been pretty solid in this tournament, if you ask me, too. From everything I've seen, like I said, I haven't sat down and watched the second game yet. All right, let's watch Legault on this breakout here. Good entry there by Legault. Way to step up. Still holding on to it. All right, not bad at all. Even though he's more of a shutdown, stay-at-home guy, you want him to make plays like that because the game's fast. You want to have quick exits like that and be able to join the rush when you can so you can keep that flow going. So not a bad shift there by Legault either. Todd Davis says pizza today. Yeah, that does sound good, but I can't have one of those for a while. I had seafood yesterday morning, so that was my cheat day for the week as far as like stuff that I'm limiting how much I eat. Skylark, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Wookie, what's up, dude? Rabkin has proven all tournament he's ready for the A. I do hope Nadeau keeps being great through camp to make the team. Yeah, and that's going to be a good problem to have, if you will, if they think Nadeau is good enough to make the team, because at that point you got to think about like who's going. It's this team is so deep in the organization, and it's a good problem to have. But at some point or another, they have to fill the organizational needs and maybe trade somebody, because I know I've been joking about Good job by Legault there. I know I've been joking about Rabkin making it to the show earlier than projected. Like you saw me and Aaron Manning Wright say, oh, he's only 18, and I'm like, well, he'll be 19 by the time he's called up for the playoffs. But all the joking aside, I think that 1 year in the American League for Rabkin to refine his game is good. If he makes that jump this year, is good, because oh shit, that was a weird bounce. Let me see. Someone texted me. We'll see what happens here, because I was looking at the chat. Oh, damn. That's just bad luck. All right. There, we got that sorted out. That was actually AB I was talking to there for a second. Let's see what Robodaw's does there. Like Robodaw's really good at using that low center. Oh, good pass by Fuss did a really, really good job to make that play there. And then Robodaw, he had a little bit more time than I think he realized because he was all alone. He could have made another move there. But frame of reference, what we're seeing is 4 times slower than what a player is seeing. So but Robodaw made that play happen with that hit there. So that way Felix Ungersorm gets the puck and he makes that pass to him. All right. Good back check there. Way to shut that entry down. I know one thing, Carolina sure as hell don't like players with speed. Let's see what else we got here. Todd Davis says Adam Gold is having a Canes Corner podcast every night starting tonight until preseason starts. Yeah, I saw that. Sometimes I listen to it, sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends on what I got going on. Mostly I've always listened to Canes Corner on the radio, like when I'm driving, or not Canes Corner in particular, but I've listened to Adam Gold mostly on the radio, like when I'm driving up to and back from a game normally, like when I come up for games, which won't be very frequent this year. You got to get that out. Good stick. All right, let's watch this breakout here. That just about squeaked through Quap. Yeah, he gave up a little bit too much of the 5-hole there coming across. Luckily, he got the pillow shut before it went in. Yeah. Too bad Storm couldn't have got a stick on that. He would have had a lot of time and space to make an entry and cut to the middle and maybe make something happen there. Felix Storm has really impressed me with possession. I think that he'll be better this season because I don't think that they're going to try him at center again. Wookie says, the way I look at Nadeau is if he has a great camp, they will find a spot for him like last year with Blake. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but the team wasn't very deep last season. So there was definitely, a lot of people were speculating who was going to make the team. One thing I was very, very wrong about was Eric Robinson. I think that hit the post. Yeah, it did. Good board battle, bud. Oh, God. You guys got to clean that up on entry there. But essentially, what I think is the thing is, last season, I thought that Eric Robinson wasn't going to make the team and he was going to be a call up, and he blew everybody out of the water, particularly me. Till this day, I issue apologies to that guy every single chance I get. With this team now, it's a little bit deeper because, Robinson's a mainstay. Last year, people were saying, somebody was going to make the team as far as the rookies went out of camp out of necessity anyway. And it basically came down to people debating, was it going to be Nadeau? Was it going to be Blake? Was it going to be Felix Unger-Sorm? I kind of always thought it was Blake, but when I saw that picture of him doing the farmer's carry with his forearms looking like a damn crab, that's when I was like, okay, this kid's going to make the team. Because it was the same thing like when Warren Fogle made the team. So if they do decide that Nadeau is ready to take that step, it's harder to see who they would potentially move out unless they manage to move KK and then try somebody else at center, i.e. Stankoven or Blake. Or I'm sorry, Stankoven or Jarvis. And even then, I don't know, man. It's just I just don't see a path for him because of a logjam, not because of a lack of ability, because everything I'm seeing right now out of the kid I like. So he's going to be one of those guys I watch very closely during the preseason as well. So that's the whole thing about it. All right, let me mute that real quick. That's my only thing with it right now. I just don't see room for him. It's not a lack of ability, that's for sure. Now, as far as Nadeau's playing has gone, he has exceeded some of the expectations I had for him. It looks like his puck pursuit has definitely improved. He's definitely got the grit to go to the corners and do the dirty work to dig pucks out. And you saw he's got a little bit of a playmaking touch as he did there on the Rabkin goal. Nadeau's just a little bit on the smaller side. The biggest reason I think they might keep him down there is they're going to want him to bulk up a little bit and maybe not get pushed off the puck as easy as he is now. That's about the only problem I see at the moment. Well, other than that, I'm really impressed with this game. Now, preseason and camp will be a lot more indicative of if he's ready to take that step. So that's where it is. Tony D, what's up, bro? What's up? Good to see you. But yeah, camp is going to be very telling for, I think, him more than anybody. If anybody is going to make the team out of camp that's not a current mainstay on the roster, it's going to be him. That's what I think, if I had to guess. So maybe Fuss, but I think him having another year in the American League to kind of to undo the year of where they tried him out at center, even though they didn't try him out there all year, just so he can acclimate to being a winger full time and get his game back to where it was and then continue to build on that. That's why I don't think it'll be him this year. Robidaw, I think his ceiling is basically fourth line center at the NHL level. And, potentially could need one of those in a couple of seasons because KK could be gone. Jordo may retire as planned at the end of his contract. And Jankowski, if he plays well again, even if he's with the Canes, he'll probably get moved to, he might go somewhere else because free agency would, grant him a chance to make a bigger check and get better term. One other thing that, and I mean this in the most, I'm trying to think of how to say this. I like William Carrier, but him being injury prone is pretty undeniable. Even if even if Nadeau doesn't make it out of camp, Nadeau's going to get some NHL time just because of that. You're not going to go through an 82 game without, a season without injuries, and William Carrier is incredibly prone to them. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he is called up primarily because of Carrier being injured and he gets a lot of NHL action that way. But right now, as far as there's just no room for him because you already have 13 NHL mainstays. And unless one of those guys falls off a cliff, unless one of those guys falls off a cliff, 13 is right because I'm counting the extra forward. Then that's the only thing about Nadeau not having a path up. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if people have been picking up the phone about a couple of the guys that the Hurricanes have in this tournament And that's probably been going on a long time before this tournament, but they're probably watching it very closely. A team like San Jose or Chicago, maybe wouldn't want to pick them up because they're trying to bank on, that they don't have the assets to give up for a player like that when they're in rebuild mode. But a team that's like kind of close, one that makes the playoffs, but maybe needs a little bit more to take another step, Montreal, Ottawa, something like that. I could see them picking up the phone about someone like Nadeau or someone like Felix Ungerstorm. So we'll see. I personally the only reason I don't think he's going to make the team is because there's going to be no room for him. That could change. All situations are fluid in cases like this, but it could change. Tony D says Nadeau looks good out there, but he probably has the most NHL games out there. No, I think it's Robidas has probably had the most NHL games out of everybody there. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Good thing to look up. Let's see. Nadeau has 3 games total because at the end of the 23-24 season, he got the call up and then he played the other 2. Robidas has 2. Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Robidas only got called up for 2, that's right. But Robidas also had 2 points in his call-up. And then Nadeau has 1 assist in 3 games played at the NHL level. But I do like what I'm seeing out of a lot of these guys. But, if they want to groom Robidas now to be the 4th-line center in a couple of seasons, I think I'd be all right with that. The kid's good at that role, if you ask me. That's about the ceiling for him. And that's with all the respect in the world for anybody who does this. If, it's like a lot of times people are like, I've had people tell me when I say a player's ceiling is X, Y, or Z, they're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You could never do their job. I know I can't do their job. That's why they're there and I'm not. All I'm saying is that's what I personally project what their ceiling is going to be. They could exceed it. They could fall short of it. But all these guys are good hockey players. Otherwise, they wouldn't be where they are. But I definitely think that for Robidas, the ceiling is about NHL 4th-line center, mainstay NHL 4th-line center. So we'll see what happens with that. Skylar Brindamore maybe could potentially be an option in that position long-term, depending on how the rest of his development goes. But I definitely, like right now, I would prefer Robidas in that role because he wouldn't break the bank. And, if he plays anything like this at the NHL level, you get a lot out of him because, yeah, he's on the smaller side, but he's kind of like Jarvis and Stankoven and the ability to use his low center of gravity to make body contact and separate people from the puck. And you saw that there on that one play where Felix Ungerstorm was able to feed him the puck right in front of the net. So there's a lot of good there with him as well. And it looks to me, based on what I've seen right here versus what I saw of him in Chicago and the little bit he played with the Canes last season, there's definitely something there. I think his ceiling is ultimately higher than Juha Jaksa and Tyson Jost as far as being, the call up and everything like that. And, when Jost was in the lineup, he played pretty well. Ethan Reed, what's up, buddy? I'm slowly coming to terms with KK being dealt. We need a better 2C. Nikishin is getting paid, and this team will probably need a goalie. That $4.8 million might be needed elsewhere. Yeah, and on top of all that, I don't think – I'm sure KK and Rod – when I say KK and Rod don't have a good relationship, I don't know what their relationship is. I'm talking about just strictly like how KK fits with the team, fits with the system and everything. Just it might be mutually beneficial. I would wager to say it's mutually beneficial to both parties for – KK to go somewhere else where he can play that definitive 3rd-line center role. Or, he could go to another team and play in a different system, and then he could develop into or I wouldn't say develop, but he can play a 2nd-line center role somewhere else where they do things a little bit differently. Like that could be a distinct possibility, but I think that it would be best for him to for him and the organization both, and you guys know I'm like one of KK's biggest supporters and defenders. I think that he's probably just going to be better off going somewhere else. And, to tie into something Tony D said here, and I'll get to that in a second, he says if Rabkin has a hot start in the AHL season, will we see KK dealt before the deadline? I think KK getting dealt is inevitable anyway, but here's the scenario that you could potentially have with that. If KK gets dealt and Rabkin is playing well, maybe you bring in a short-term solution to the 2nd-line center role, someone who's got 2, maybe 3, or maybe even just 1 year remaining on their deal and have them fill that role until such time as Rabkin is ready. So that way you can line up the contract expiration of a 2C with KK being gone and Rabkin's development timeline. Because Rabkin is going to need at least 1 year in the American League to get to where he needs to go. The more I watch this, the less and less I think he's going to play in the queue this year. I think he's going to the Wolves. So that's personally what I think will happen because the kid's really impressing me. But if you guys will give me a second, I'll expound on that in a moment. But let me take a quick break here. Alrighty, I'm back. Okay, Bree, what's up, bud? Oh, wait, hold up. Let me go back here. Hold up. I'll get to you, I promise. A Ryan O'Reilly. Yeah, a player like that, someone like that, just to kind of close the, stopgap until Rabkin is, developed and ready. And Rabkin will probably get a call up at some point, even if it's just at the end of the season when they're resting other guys. I could see that happening. But this kid's good. Av Clark says Zaka has 2 years left. Same with O'Reilly. Yeah, someone like that. Someone just to kind of, fill the gap, save some money by getting KK's contract off the books, because I think Zaka and O'Reilly both have a lower AAV than him. I could be wrong. Ryan O'Reilly makes a 4.5, which is a little bit lower than KK. Zaka, I'd have to do some research on. 4.75, so only a $50,000 cap savings there, so that's not much. But if you think he'd be a better fit, then maybe you look into doing that. But if you're looking at a money saving standpoint, it's like you have to see, is this player going to be a better fit and be more beneficial? And then one other one I want to look at. Nope. Hold on. No, that ain't going to work. Trying to think of who else that I want to look at. I have a couple of dream acquisitions, as you guys know. Why is it not loading? There's three guys I hope Carolina really swings to the fences to get. If the Sabres have a bad season, which they inevitably will, they're the Sabres, then you know who I want from there. If the Red Wings have a bad season, you know who I want from there. If the Blues have a bad enough season to where they finally hit the hammer, because they're just kind of they're a team that makes the playoffs and keeps their head above water, but eventually the wheels are going to come off with them. That's where I'm hoping that maybe they'll really swing for the fences and get Robert Thomas, because I think he would be a perfect fit with the Canes. He might even be a better fit than Larkin and Tage. Granted, none of those things are going to happen. None of them are going to happen. But we'll see. And then you don't have to worry about putting an extension in place for any of those guys either. Cabry also says, I definitely see bringing in Sam or Zaka. I think KK will be a perfect fit for the Bruins. Yeah, I feel bad because one, the guy has to live in Boston, poor him. And then number two, he's going to be on a team that's going to be bad for a while. Like that's the only problems with it. And I would hate to play against him. Tony D says Canes don't have much money heading into next season. I think after the Stankoven and Blake extensions, they'll have enough, and then they'll get Nikishin done sometime this season. He'll be somewhere between 9 and 10, I imagine. Maybe 8.5. Right now, it's kind of hard to project exactly where Nikishin's AAV is gonna land at, just out of the simple fact that you haven't seen him play a whole lot, and you have to see how everything's going to translate at the NHL level. He could fall anywhere between 8 to 10. Biggest bellwether thing with as far as the money he's going to make. Does he maintain the physicality? Does he defend well? And then above all, what's his production like 5-on-5 and on the power play? Like when you start narrowing those things down, that's when you can get an idea of Nikishin's AAV and everything. Todd Davis says O'Reilly has an NMC. I don't think he does. I mean, I'm not saying you're lying to me. I'll look. No, he doesn't have a clause. He has no clause of any kind. All right, game's back on, so I'll get to the rest of y'all's comments next chance I get. Good save. Good subtle contact there by Rapkin. Gleb, you got to exit faster than that, buddy. And I know a lot of people are worried about Trikozov, but he didn't play much last year because of the injuries and everything. Give him a little bit to kind of get back up to speed. Way to punch that out there. Felix Thunderstorm, I believe it was that did that. Good stick. Who was that? Delayed penalty on Carolina. All right, Fuss touched it up. Wookie says Saka would work out time-wise, specifically age-wise. He could become our 3C after 2 years. Yeah, that too. If you don't have an option there, yeah. Now, if you find a way to hold on to KK, then you can put KK in that slot, and then whoever in the second line center slot, and then fourth line Robidaw maybe, or if Jankowski stays, there's a couple of different options there. Todd Davis says, my bad, I heard that somewhere. So what you probably heard, Nashville actually approached Ryan O'Reilly about trading him last season from something I read. And he basically, since he's a veteran of the league, they respected his desire to not be traded. So he doesn't have a no trade clause on paper, but the organization just decided to respect how long he's been in, and which is cool of them. The organization decided to respect him and his wishes to not be traded at the time. So Nashville's going to try to turn it around this season. I just don't think they will. That's what happens when you give Brady Shea $49 million. Not that I ever advocated for that in Carolina. Good stick. You got a piece of it on the way through. I want to watch Robidaw really close on the penalty kill here. See, as long as Nadeau can cover his point and stick with his man, then he's okay in a situation like this. In the NHL, I don't think he'll be a penalty killer. Oh, you can't give him that much space. Good physicality. Get that out. Good job there. And now Nadeau's in the box. Alrighty. Let's see how this goes here. Hold that triangle, boys. Good save. Keep them on the perimeter, guys. Don't let them collapse. Good job. Right back. Nope. Right back to him. You got to get that out. Or get it deep, I should say. Okay, got Himasalmi back. Good job by Legault. That's the type of stuff I'm looking for from Charles Alexis Legault. Good block. What a pass. Teuvo Teravainen, who? Man, that kid's got hands. Tony D says at Todd Davis, KK has a partial NTC. I think that's what you're thinking. Yeah. KK has a 10-team list. Cavery also says, who y'all think we will swing for at goalie? Freddie ain't getting younger, and Cooch is a question mark. I'll get to that. Zach would be a great 3C. I think so too. Hopefully he could be a 2C for a couple of years if they decide to go that route. I feel bad for Saros. Yeah, I do too. I think he'd work out much better in Carolina. And, Canes have an affinity for undersized players anyway. You might as well grab him. Rapkin tried to make a play there. He just couldn't. Whoever he passed it to couldn't settle it down. See, that's some of the stuff I do worry about with Rapkin. He kind of chased that hit there a little bit. It wasn't bad. It wasn't nearly as bad as was stated in the scouting report. But you can't do that all the time. Once in a while, it's fine. Once in a while, you throw some physicality, turn it into a war of attrition, all that type of stuff. That's fine. But you just can't do it a lot. Good job absorbing that contact there. Good job by Nadeau there. A little bit wide. Good pass. At least they got back in there in time to disrupt it and then didn't give them a clean shot. Quap made a good save. Uh-oh. Good job sealing the post there by Quap. Gleb, look behind you. Nadeau's puck pursuit is really damn good. Trikozov didn't have a whole lot of time there, but he got a shot off. And some discussions after the whistle. I love this game. Good heads-up play there by Badenka. Badenka's got some damn wheels. Linesman got hit. Good hit. Close your gaps. Close your gaps. Did that one go on going off his back again? Let's see what happened here. Yeah, that gap was bad. Then Badinka stepped up on him too and left the other man open. That's a bad goal. That's not as bad as the first one that Tampa got, but that's a bad goal. I guess that's a penalty. High stick. Or was it played with a high stick? It's hard to tell with this camera all over the damn place. Rapkin. Been bragging about how, you were staying out of trouble and now you get a penalty. It's just an errant high stick, though, it looked like to me. Good job by Badinka taking that extra second before he cleared it. Good play by Nadeau. Gap up on him. Look how disrupted that there. Good job by him. Quap melts it down, as John Forsland would say. Oh my God, I hate this song. I heard it like a million times when I was in Florida. God, I hate this song. That's wide. Solid penalty kill so far. Not giving him a whole lot of quality chances. What are you doing, weirdo? My dog's doing that thing where he lays on his back and goes like this and starts biting at his tail. You're a strange one, Mr. Grinch. All right, let's watch what Fuss does here on the. All righty, Rapkin's out. Get out. Hold on your stick there, Gleb. Get to another comment or two here. Tony D says you would have to trade Cooch to get Swayman, but I don't hate that idea. I don't hate it either. I have a friend who I'm going to have on here soon. His name's Steve. He plays goalie. I played with him, and he knows goalies pretty well. Oh, glove off. He said that Swayman is a very underrated goalie, and he thinks that with a better defense in front of him and not having to face so many shots, that he'd be really, really good for the Canes. And that's something him and I will talk about on here live in the near future. Sometime this month, we're hoping to do it. Cavery says, well, if they throw in the towel for McKenna, they might do a fire sale. Pittsburgh's getting McKenna. You might as well just go ahead and accept that. Pittsburgh will get Gavin McKenna. The NHL's not letting that market go. I'm telling you. Because that market was dead until they got Crosby. I won't say dead, but like he definitely brought it back from the brink when Lemieux acquired the team and Crosby was already living there, and then he happened to draft. No, they knew what they were doing. I don't think the draft lottery is outright rigged, but let's consider this: Hurricanes never drafted in the top 3 except for Eric Stahl. No matter how bad they were, and they just kept getting stuck where they were, missing the playoffs by like 6 points. So they just kept getting a bunch of middle of the road first round picks. And then Dundon buys the team, and then suddenly they're drafting in the top 3 and they're able to get Svechnikov. I'm not entirely convinced there weren't other things at work there when that happened. I'm not saying that there are. I'm not saying that there weren't. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me if that was a factor. If they thought that a player like Svechnikov, who hasn't turned out exactly as great as we want, at least not yet, but he's also had a lot of adversity in his career. If they see that a market can be revitalized by something like that or maintained, then I think that there's some consideration in who wins the draft lottery in those cases. Jesus Christ. Wookie says, I can see them trading Zaka, but not Swayman at least this year. Yeah, it just kind of depends on how everything goes with them because Boston's not going to be good. So we'll see. Tony D says, Quap pulling a Cooch. Yeah, Quap is pulling a Cooch. Yeah, that was kind of a soft one to give up. Broken play, but as Todd Davis here says. Good drop pass there. Yeah. Good reset there by Roboda. I thought Nadeau was going to get there first. Ah, damn it. You had a little bit more time there than you thought. Keep it. Keep it. There you go. Good keep. Good job by Fuss to make some time and space there. Take your time. Get you a quality shot. Take your time. And that faceoff's got to come outside since the defenseman came down because Badinka came down there and got involved in that. Oh, no, I guess they're still having it in the offensive zone since it's a penalty. Yeah. All right, let's see. Foss, you got to settle that down, bud. Damn shorty. It's a good thing we're not watching the big club play right now. And I'm not even really watching this whole team. There's certain players I'm watching more than others. Yeah. Conditioning us for what we're about to deal with. And the Panthers are too. The ones in Charlotte, not the ones in Sunrise. $36 is Felix Unger-Sorum, Todd, who I've been generally impressed with this entire series or this entire tournament, but he messed up there. Y'all need to go ahead and cut this lead in half now if you want to have any chance. Let's see. Tony D says, I wonder if they try to trade Fuss this season. He doesn't have a spot on this team. I think they won't do it this season because he needs a year in the American League to undo the damage that was done from trying to play him at center. And I think after that, maybe he becomes trade bait. It could happen before that, but I think that they're going to let him marinate in the American League for another year, and then that's when his stock will go up, and then I think that's when they would try to do it because he's got to unlearn some habits of when they tried to convert him to center, and then this time they actually drafted an organizational need when they got Rabkin, so we'll see what happens. All right, that was a good play there. Come on, Bradley. That's a slash. That no, fuck that not being a penalty. That should have been a slashing call. That was blatant across the hands after the whistle. You Good job by Lago to deny that entry and force that dump in. He's playing much better today based on what I heard about him on Saturday because I couldn't watch the one on Saturday. I was at work. And then I came home and I was like, I'll just watch it later and record it. And I watched the Heels game. Todd Davis says, do you think they'll pull Quap? It's not his fault, though. I don't know. Did Kuzayev play the entire second game? That would be the first thing to ask. And second, it's like Tony D says this is the first one I've been able to watch. Yeah, if him and Kuzayev didn't split the net again in game 2, then maybe Kuzayev's going back in there or whatever. I'm not sure. Yes. Okay. So Quap's probably staying in then, I would imagine. But yeah, you're right. This isn't his fault. Those were 2 really soft goals, but he's got to seal the post better on the first one. And then that last one that Tampa scored, there just ain't nothing you can really do about that. But I'm going to take another break. I'll be back at least before the third period starts. So I'm going to take a few minutes this time because I got home and I ran straight up here immediately and started doing this. So I'm going to check out for a second here, and I'll be back though when the third period starts. Alrighty. So there's one comment I want to revisit here. Let me find it because I have some extensive thoughts on this. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but this will take us basically until the start of the third period. Cavery says, who y'all think we swing it for goalie? Freddie ain't it, and younger, and ain't getting younger, and Cooch is a question mark. So here's the whole thing about it. I stayed out of the whole Hockey Canada thing because I knew that there was zero ability to have a nuanced discussion about it. The unfortunate events of last week further confirmed that. So when it comes to Carolina potentially signing anybody from Hockey Canada, one, Cal Foot's not going to be one of them because I don't think he's a mainstay NHL player anyway. Dubé, Formanton, McLeod, redundant. You don't need any of them anyway. The only one that it would make sense on paper for the organization to potentially sign is Carter Hart. Now, I have to go back and take a look at his numbers, acknowledge that he wasn't on the best team, and that he had this whole thing hanging over his head probably, which maybe affected his game. I'm not God. I am not a jury member. I am not a judge. It's not my place to decide what occurred in that room. That being said, Carter Hart is not in jail. Neither are any of the other guys. If the reports are true, Carolina may potentially go get him. And I will strictly talk about that from a standpoint of what he would potentially bring to the table for the team, morality withstanding, or how stupid what they did was. Because regardless of what lens you look at it through, whether you want to look at it through a legal one or a moral one, what those kids did was dumb. And, you know, call me weird, but I can't fathom the concept of banging some random chick I just met with 4 other swinging cocks around. If that makes me weird, so be it. That just sounds disgusting to me, that whole thing. So, from a standpoint of if he could potentially make the team better when, as you say, Freddie isn't getting any younger and Kochekov, we don't know. It's goalies are already hard to project, but Kochekov on the ice has created a situation of like goalies are already hard to predict, and Kochekov is an unpredictable person in addition to that. When you marry those two things together, you get a situation that is a huge question mark in regards to the Canes with their goaltending. Now, I saw one other one here that I want to pull up again that also ties into this. If I can find it again. Frankie, chill out, bud. Cavery also says maybe we do a trade for Zaka and Swayman and KK and Freddie and Cooch plus some picks, of course. Maybe you could do something like that. But be careful about being so ready to trade 2 goalies for one, especially when you've seen what you've seen today. Because the organizational depth with goalies right now, it's better than what it was, but it's not that deep. From what I was told by someone I rely on very much to tell me these things when I don't get the chance to watch the game, and that is Matthew P. Kazayev was good yesterday. Doesn't mean that he's a confirmed NHL goalie. And again, goalies are hard to project. Quap not looking great today. Frolov, he's over in the K. It's going to be a while before you see him anyhow, if you do see him. So that's where I have a reluctance with potentially trading 2 goalies, because then you have to figure out who's going to be behind Swayman if he is your starter. And I don't think the organization would trade Freddie just from a loyalty standpoint. So in the event the Canes sign any of those Hockey Canada players, and there's only one that they would honestly sign, and that's Carter Hart. Then And only then will I comment on that situation, but I'm not going to comment on the legal aspect of it. I'm going to comment on what Carter Hart or any of those players could potentially do in terms of benefiting or to the detriment of the organization on the ice. The thing that annoys me about it is a lot of people are saying we don't need that type of shit in our locker room, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of people who live in a fantasy land where they think all their favorite athletes get off the ice and they turn into cute little puppies. Without going into specifics, because maybe it's nobody on this team, but if you think that professional athletes don't engage in behavior like that more than they should, more than anybody should, because it should be zero, your worldview is going to get shattered one day, and it's going to be a paradigm shift in the way that you look at life. I have plenty of things in that closet over there that I would love to get signed. And if I ever get the chance, great. But it's basically going to be get it signed, say thank you, Sebastian Aho, thank you, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, thank you, Jacob Slavin, go on about my day. I'm not going to sit there and weep tears of joy about it. I'll be giddy about it. I'll be happy. But there's this really bad thing in society. It's always been there, but I think right now it's worse than it's ever been, where people deify celebrities, deify athletes, deify musicians, and then they're beyond shocked when they find out they're not the greatest person. That may be true for some Canes players. It may not. But there's only so many people in the world that are qualified to do these guys' jobs. And I don't think the Hurricanes scooped up every morally perfect one that there was. And nobody's morally perfect anyway. Raleigh98 says, hey, just joined the stream. My impression is we're a bit gassed, particularly our defense. Yeah, they could be. In the first game, the defense, they were letting some stuff get behind them a little bit too easily, I thought. And I've glanced at the second game. I've talked to people about the second game. I've got it screen capped. I'm going to watch it because I'm going to be doing some highlights from it and everything. I'm going to make some highlight packages from it. Oh, great. Penalty kill. That could be a factor, but the defense has actually been kind of, from everything I've seen so far in the tournament. Wookie says, I know it's insider words, but what do you think about the Kaprizov stuff? I've talked about that a little bit. I'll get back to that in a minute, but short answer is I don't think he's coming to Carolina. I really don't. I don't know where he's going, but Carolina would have the cap space eventually at some point. But if you're talking about getting a player like Kaprizov, you're talking about giving up a lot. And amongst that would be Svechnikov, probably, KK, probably, maybe one of the goalies, probably Kochekov of those two. They would probably maybe want someone like Nikishin in that. So there's all kinds of things there to consider in regard to how that could go down. I personally don't think Kaprizov is coming to Carolina. Now I could be wrong, but I don't see Kaprizov coming to Carolina. I just don't. I mean, there's ways, I speculate in ways that it could happen and everything. I think about it, but the amount that you would have to give up for a guy like that, kind of, you add a one of the best players in the world, but is it worth depleting a certain amount of your depth chart to get it done? That's the question you have to ask. That's the only thing. Let me turn the sound back on this so I can hear it. Oh, man. Ugh. They tried to stack up at the blue line, deny that entry, and totally messed it up. Good D there. Way to win that board battle. Got to get back on it, though. Pretty solid shift there from Rapkin as well. Raleigh 98 says, I thought our D was stronger in the second match, but keen for your view on it later. Yeah, I'm going to watch that game. I'll sit down and watch. I got some schoolwork I got to do tonight, so this is going to be all I do today. Tomorrow night, I might do something. I haven't decided yet. But I'm going to get highlight packages put together so I can post them, and then I'll try to do a reaction to them and everything, and that'll eat up some of the time between now and the season. Tony D says, I really hope I see Ehlers and Miller next week for the preseason game. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if those guys take extra reps this preseason when compared to what the amount they would have done before, just so that they can learn the system a little bit better. Ehlers is not going to be a problem. Ehlers is going to fit in pretty quick. Part of that is because he's just kind of already got that pedigree that you look for in a Hurricane, and he's a forward. Miller, on the other hand, he's a defenseman. It's a little bit longer to, get them to acclimate and everything like that and adapt to the system. And he does have some things he needs to work on, particularly with Miller. The gap control is what needs to be worked on more than anything. And once that's down, Miller is going to be a very good player for Carolina. And Rangers fans saying a lot of the stuff they're saying about Key, they said the same exact stuff about Brady Shea. And Brady Shea ended up being a great acquisition. Now, it took Brady Shea some time to adapt because there were the first 20 games and part of the season after, I was kind of like, I don't know if this was a good idea, but it turned out being great. And then a bunch of people wanted him to stay, myself included. But I'll take Shane Gostisbehere at, what is it, $3.2 million a season or whatever it is. He makes over a $7 million Brady Shea any day. And I'm not convinced that the two of them are that far apart in terms of 5-on-5 defense, just because they execute it differently. The Shea Pesci crowd is one of the most annoying ones I think I've ever seen, because they act like that was the downfall of the franchise, and then they got back to the conference finals and they were incredibly dominant in the first two rounds. So ooh. Scott Thomas, what's up, buddy? What's going on, Brandon? You ready for the season? Yes, I'm very much ready for the season. I'm pretty excited about it. Like I said in the schedule preview, I'm a little bit shaky, I'm expecting the team to be a little bit shaky for the first 20 games or so with all the new faces, especially the defense. And how the defensive pairs start this season, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't end the season that way. So we'll see. This is just hard to watch at this point. Wish somebody had been in front to take advantage of that bounce. Sorry I'm not talking much, guys. I'm getting hungry, and it's starting to mess with me a little bit. I haven't eaten since yesterday morning. Stick with him, Robidaw. Don't let him have the... There you go. Stay with him. Robidaw did a really good job forcing him to the outside and keeping him there. Angled him off and didn't let him go to the front of the net. Didn't let him make a clean centering pass, and he had to go for the drop. That's going to be a... Oh, well, you better take them both. Todd Davis says Miller will be like Seth Jones in Florida. Seth Jones went through a transformative experience in Florida. Yeah, that's what happens when you can get a good player off a bad team and let them start being a good player again. Yeah, take them. Yeah, you got to take them both in a situation like that. Raleigh 98 says Nadeau is going to be a new special refs ate him. Oh, wait, 4-4. Yeah, the guy that he took the penalty against got really stupid there and slashed him and cross-checked him after the whistle. That was incredibly dumb. That was something I would expect Svechnikov to do a few years ago, what he just did, whoever that Tampa player was. Get back quick. Way to pin him there, Hema saw me. I'm just not really impressed with how this team's playing at all right now. They've completely taken their foot off the gas. They allowed three really sloppy goals. One of them shorthanded. Make that 4 goals that shouldn't have happened. That one's on Quap. He just gave him way too much of the 5-hole, and that's the second time he's done that this game. The first time he was able to get the pillow shut before it went in, he didn't do it that time. That one's on Quap. Good entry by Unger Sorum. Somebody's got to help him out there, give him some puck support. Unger Sorum was trying to do all that by himself. Oof. And don't make good on that turnover. You got to hand it a grade A opportunity. Good pass by Legault. Pull the trigger. Come on. I can't hate on Weiss, though. He's from North Carolina, so. Yeah, they're not going to win this one. Keep that came out. Todd Davis says, "Damn, another goal." Yeah, they've not been good today. Of what I've seen, this is the worst period they've had in the tournament. The last two periods, in particular, the third and the entirety of the second. Canes have no zone pressure. Yeah, I'm just not digging this. Nadeau has been invisible. The whole team's been kind of invisible. Radkin's been pretty good. Legault's been all right. Other than that, I'm not really seeing much that I like right now. But it's like in a tournament like this, you don't really look at it from the team aspect. You look at it at least for me, I tend to look at the players that could potentially make the Canes in the future. And those are the ones that I'm watching the most, and those are the ones I'm hoping that have good games, but only two of them are having good games. Unger Storms has some flashes. Nadeau's had some flashes, but like nothing that really is complete. Nothing I can really write home about, honestly. Uh, I think I try to go 1-on-3 there, like Martin Natchez. Jeez. Nadeau does look kind of gassed now that you mention it. He's not moving like he was, not even when compared to just the beginning of this game. You could have fooled me that we were on a power play right now. Yeah, both these teams are taking, they're taking it easy now because they've got more important things ahead. All these guys do. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a pretty tame game from now to the end. It might not be a full on pillow fight, but it's gonna be pretty calm from now until the end. Raleigh 98 says you got to remember we're going 11-6, and also Tampa have rotated between games. Yeah, I didn't know that because I got on here about I want to say it was like 7 minutes in the first period when I finally got home and ran up here and got started. So I didn't even get a chance to like look at the raw. I haven't been on X all day. I've been in class, and I went and got this trimmed up because it was getting a little wild. Good face-off win. Good block, too. Raleigh 98 says our lines have been blended a lot because of that, which I think has made good shifts tough to do. Yeah. I tried explaining that to somebody once that, only having 11 forwards kind of throws everything off because you can't really develop any chemistry with your line mates. And he told me I'd only been watching hockey for 2 years. And I'm like, I got quite a collection of stuff if I've only been watching it for 2 years. I've spent more time physically upright on skates than that guy has sitting on the couch and shooting himself with Ozempic and drinking beer and watching hockey. Yeah, these boys look gassed. I think they're just ready to get this over with. I don't blame them. I mean, 3 hockey games in 4 days is a lot, and they had a practice. Why would you change the camera angle at that moment? If that had went in, I would have laughed. I mean, like, Tampa's scored as many goals for Carolina as Carolina scored for Carolina. Yeah, Todd, I think I'm going to knock off early too because I'm hungry and I'm not really able to concentrate like I was. So I'm just kind of sitting here watching this. All right, boys. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. I will talk to you guys soon. I will get all this stuff screen captured and we'll take another look at it. But yeah, this third period in particular has been pretty hard to watch. So I'm going to call it here. I'll see you guys later. Y'all take care.